To learn how you can get into the exciting world of federal government construction, schedule a Zoom with me at GCExperts.com/Zoom.
So we're going to play a little game, and it starts with me giving you, I'm going to ask you some questions, but it starts with me telling you the answer to the question. So the answer to the question is SAM registration. Ready to play? Did I lose you?
Yeah, you lost me for a second. You said samregistration.gov.
No, the answer to the questions I'm going to ask you is SAM registration. Are you ready to play?
Yes.
Okay, there's one thing and one thing only required to be a federal contractor, and that is
registering on sam.gov.
Okay, so if you sell cake mix to the Navy so they can make cakes on ships, what do you need?
SAM registration.
If you sell bullets or aircraft parts or even construction goods and services, what do you need?
SAM registration.
Okay, now we're going to play the other part of the game. This time I'm going to give you 3 scenarios. What state are you in?
Mass.
Okay. If you and I walked through a neighborhood and I pointed to the top of a power pole and said, that's a transformer, would you recognize that as transformer?
Yes.
Okay. So here's the 3 scenarios. Scenario number 1. The transformer shall be replaced by a licensed electrician in the state of Massachusetts. Now, that has nothing to do with the company that got the job. All they needed was a SAM registration. But the actual transformer shall be replaced by a licensed electrician, so you have to hire that guy. Okay?
That's it?
Hey, just hear me out. And
okay. Wait a minute. So you could do this in any state? I don't have to just be restricted to the state that I'm licensed in?
Taghi, you're talking to an absolute 100% expert that can answer every question you ever had about federal contracts and can solve any problem you could ever have on federal contracts. Okay? Stick with me.
All right. Go ahead.
Scenario number 2. The transformer shall be replaced by a licensed electrician. Well, now in that scenario, any licensed electrician from any state can go into Massachusetts and replace that transformer. Again, nothing to do with the company that got the job. All they needed was a SAM registration.
Okay.
This is federal eminent domain property. There's no such thing as a state inspector going on to a federal job.
Oh, interesting.
Okay. Scenario number 3. The transformer shall be replaced. That literally means you and I can go out there on a Saturday and replace the transformer. And it gets written all 3 ways all the time. You just have to read the requirements and comply with them. And it's because of this that I can tell you, I can look you straight in the face and tell you, I've done $1 billion worth of work for the United States federal government. I have never had a license of any kind other than a driver's license.
Wow.
Yes, to answer your question, you can work all over the entire United States, anywhere that's federal.
Okay.
There's no such thing as a federal GC license. That doesn't exist.
Yeah, no, I'm aware.
Okay. Did that light a light bulb off for you?
Yeah, absolutely. So I could sell cake mix.
You're absolutely right.
That's the easiest thing to do. Yeah, I got it. Okay. Well, that totally makes sense. I was only looking at things in my industry.
That's because if all you have is a hammer, everything's a nail.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I was just really excited because I saw this. I've been communicating with this person back and forth, and $5 million in a year. We do $2 million in a year, so $5 million would really put me over the edge.
Well, not only that, but the margins are much higher in the federal world.
Yeah, I looked at it, and it was pretty insane what they're paying for the scope of work. It's almost 20x.
But do you know why?
The number. No, I don't know why.
It's lack of competition.
That bit?
Look. You seem like a reasonably intelligent guy to me. Okay. And you couldn't figure out how to do it.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay? And I'm just telling you, it's not intuitive. If it was intuitive, everybody would be doing it, and what would happen to the prices?
It would drop.
That's
drastically.
right. Because if I can't tell you how many times over the years I'll post something on the internet, and then the peanut gallery, oh, you're the reason that there's $800 toilet seats and all this kind of shit. And I always write back to them. I go, hey, listen, dumbass. I
don't make the budget.
I'm the guy that's trying to solve the problem. In other words, I'm the guy that's trying to create more federal contractors, which will eventually lower the price, right?
Yes.
But people aren't smart enough to come to that conclusion. The reasoning, I have no idea, but...
Yeah. So why is it that if you got $1 billion in revenue, why are you trying to teach other people to do it?
Well, and here's where I'm going to put it back on you. All right, Taghi.
Okay.
Because understand that at this point, you're just talking to some dude over the internet that thought this was a scammy fucking Waze. What the fuck is that? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So this is where I'm kind of going to slap you on the face a little bit, by saying this. How long, look, when you woke up when you were 10 years old, did you say, oh my God, I can't wait to be a developer someday? Was that what you woke up and said when you were 10?
No.
Absolutely not. What happened was you turned 16, 17, 18, 19, and you started figuring out that money buys shit, and you wanted some of that money, and somebody came along and said, well, hey, Taghi, if you do this, somebody will give you some money. Isn't that essentially how you got into the business you're in?
Yeah, I mean, I worked for a guy who was a GC and
okay.
saw him making millions of dollars, and I was like, I want to be that guy.
Yep, I want some of that shit. Okay. Now, how much time did you invest in learning to the point where you started making enough money to live?
Oh, man, I've been in the trades for 15 years, plus years, yeah.
Okay, so you invested a lot of time expecting a return, right?
That's correct.
Okay, when you signed up for a Zoom with me, the first email or text you got would have said, watch this video prior to your Zoom with Sean.
I didn't get that. The only one I got was the booking, which I added to my calendar. I got to go through my junk mail and see if maybe it went to junk mail.
Check your junk mail. And also, I don't know, well, I guess you're on an iPhone. In your iPhone, it might be in that new spam messages thing that they have.
No, I looked at it on my desktop. I don't read shit through my iPhone because it gets convoluted.
Well, I understand. but listen, my team sends out a bunch of text messages prior to my Zooms, and one of them says, watch this video. Look, when I get off the phone with you, I'm going to text you that video. Okay?
Okay.
And my suggestion is sit down and really watch that in great detail before our Zoom tomorrow.
Of course.
Because I'm going to know within 5 seconds if you actually watched it or not.
Of course. I do my homework.
And so I'll text that to you here in a few minutes. Watch that thing and be prepared to ask me questions tomorrow. I don't care if it's 10 questions or 1,000 questions, but after you watch that video, write down every question you can think of to pepper me in that Zoom and just hammer the dog shit out of me, because that's your opportunity to get all the information you could ever want in the whole wide world for free.
Got it.
Okay?
Understood. Yeah.
And
so do you teach a class, or is this a one-on-one, or how does that work?
First of all, how hard was it to get a hold of me? All you had to do was have a weird name, and all of a sudden I'm calling you, right?
Well, this is the thing. Like, I've seen so many of these like programs, right, or people that say, I'm going to teach you how to win $1 million.
But not from the boots on the ground perspective. Like, in other words, how long into this conversation did you figure out that this guy's not full of shit?
Because you're talking about things that actually make sense. Where the other ones are like, I have this package for $2,000. You can watch 70 million videos and figure it out.
Not only that,
That's not what
but
I'm
did you
looking for.
ever hear once in this conversation, if you buy my shit?
No.
No.
I didn't.
In fact, all you heard was information, specific information related to the questions that are popping into your head, right?
That's right. That's right.
Okay. Look, I'm just telling you, there's nobody like me in the whole wide world. I already made my money in this business. In that video that I'm going to send you, at the end of the video, the guy asked me, the reason I make everybody watch that video is because he asked me more questions than anybody had ever asked me before. And I started thinking after that Zoom I had, I thought, motherfucker, everybody who wants to talk to me should have to watch this first, because if they don't get their questions answered in this video, they'll be ready with questions when they get into a Zoom with me. But at the end of that video, he had asked me, he said, what's your motivation? Well, he asked a weird question, or kind of like what you did, like, why are you doing this? And I said, well, that's a motivation question, right? And here's what I can tell you, that when you've accomplished everything that I've accomplished in this world, you buy an RV and you travel around the country a couple of times. You get on an airplane, you go around and you see some neat shit in the world. But I can tell you that after 6 months of doing all that shit, we all end up back at home.
Yeah.
And so the question becomes, what am I going to do today? Now, so look, it's 8 o'clock in the morning over here. I'm having a cup of coffee. I see some weird shit on my calendar, and I think this is what motivates me, is having these conversations. Like, can you feel the happiness and the joy in my life of educating?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
This is what I consider fun, is having conversations, popping those light bulbs off in people, showing people what this is and what this isn't, and then letting them, you go make any decision you want. I don't give a shit if you buy my shit a year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, or never. Okay? To me, the money thing isn't the thing. It's having fun in these conversations, you know? That's my motivation.
Okay.
And if you watch enough of my YouTube videos, subscribe to my channel, you'll get a real sense of who I am, just like in this conversation. You know, it's like I always tell people, you only have to make 2 decisions in any conversation you have with me. Number 1, is this guy full of shit or not? Because if you decide I'm full of shit, there's no reason to go to number 2.
True.
And then number 2 is, personalities are different. You know, some people might find me a little too pushy or braggish or, you know, whatever. It's just not the right fit personality-wise. I'm not a coddler. I'm not, hey, Taghi, it's okay. You'll get the next one. I'm not that guy. I'm the guy that says, this is what you need to do. And by the way, normally I tell people, don't try to use ChatGPT with the federal government. That's a road to nowhere. They'll see right through it. And I can give you way more powerful information in half the words that ChatGPT would ever use to help you get federal contracts. And here's another point I want to make before our Zoom tomorrow. If you go out tomorrow and you get a $100,000 contract, and you go back to your office and you put it in your filing cabinet, can anybody in the whole wide world just walk right into your office, open up your filing cabinet, and go, holy shit, Taghi, you got a $100,000 contract?
No.
No, because that's private information. But every federal contract I ever got in my entire career, is that private or is it public information?
That's public.
That's right. So do you think I would ever lie about any federal contract I ever got?
No, because it would pop up.
Somebody could look. This is a record.
Look it up.
I'm told you ahead of time. I'm recording this conversation. If I tell you that the last 3-ton air conditioner I sold to the federal government, I sold it for $107,000. Do you believe me?
Holy shit!
Do you believe me?
No, not until I see the receipt.
Okay. Hold on, Taghi. Are you in front of a computer or a phone where you can look something up?
No, I'm driving actually talking to you.
Okay.
Sorry.
Again, this is recorded, so I'm going to tell you it's at GCExperts.net. That's a little sister site my guys put together. GCExperts.net/welcome. And if you go down to the bottom of that page, the award of that contract is on that page. You can click and you can look at the federal award, and it'll say in there 3-ton air conditioner, $107,000. And even if you think, oh fuck, he could have photoshopped that, okay? Do you think you can go into the federal government records, pull up
Yeah,
that?
I can search it up.
That's
I
right.
can search it up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, here's another question. The guys that I've taught this to, are their contracts public?
Of course, yeah. Anybody that touches that is public.
That's right.
No?
So
Yeah.
So I've got a page on my website, gcexperts.com/proof, PROOF. On that page, I've got videos of guys like you that have gone through my training and they're going, oh my God, Sean's the expert. But underneath their video, I have a link to their public profile showing all the
Jesus.
federal contracts that they've got. Now, the reason you just said Jesus is because you just recognized that that's indisputable proof. It's indisputable.
Right.
Okay? Nobody that will ever tell you, buy my shit to learn federal contracting is going to have indisputable proof like I do.
No, they just have a couple of fancy videos.
That's right. And if you watch my videos, there's nothing fancy about it. There's no edits. There's no perfect lighting. I'm not wearing a suit and tie. I'm just fucking delivering valuable information to people in the construction industry. That's a huge difference.
Yeah. So, just a quick question. When you say you sold 3-ton HVAC units to the federal government, you literally just sold the units or
No,
install as well?
that job was an install. And so that job was in Alaska at the Jeff Soapy Museum. I live in Austin, Texas. Do you think I went to Alaska to go install a 3-ton air conditioner?
No, but then how do you oversee it? Because a lot of it says there's oversight that has to be done.
That's right. And can you imagine if I've done 1,000 federal contracts that I have a solution to that?
There's got to be a solution.
Okay.
There's got to be a solution.
That's right. And ChatGPT isn't going to tell you how to do that.
No. Okay. You got me. You got me intrigued.
Well, now you got to watch that video I'm going to text you.
Of course. Yeah, this is really exciting stuff.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't have to necessarily be something in my field.
Absolutely not.
Anything.
That's right. In fact, the first thing that I tell people, so look, you're going to, I don't want to take away from the video, but you're a sharp guy, so I think you can just get this conceptually while we're talking on the phone. Okay?
Sure.
I want you to imagine the federal government wants a 200 square foot tiny house built for the National Park Service at some park somewhere in the United States. And they want to put their park rangers up in the winter in this 200 square foot tiny house. Okay?
Yeah.
So they put the solicitation out. Me as a federal contractor, I come across it. And let's just say that job's in Massachusetts. In fact, let's just say it's 30 minutes from your office. So I go turn my bid in for $100,000. Okay?
Yeah.
There's something called the Federal Acquisition Regulations. Have you come across that yet?
No.
Okay. It's the rule book. There's only one rule book for all the agencies. When you're talking about the National Park Service, National Forest Service, Bureau of Land Management, Bureau of Indian Affairs, federal courthouses, Army, Navy, Coast Guard, EPA, USDA, all those agencies own buildings. There's 496 of them. They all own buildings. and it's close to 1 million buildings, like 960,000 federal buildings across the United States. Okay?
Holy crap.
That's right. It's way bigger than anybody can even conceive. But we're talking about this 200 square foot tiny house, and we're talking about the federal acquisition regulations. One rule book for all of them. In that rule book, there's one called FAR 13.004. Now, normally I make people read this to me rather than me regurgitate it so that they can see and read the actual regulation. But you and I are, since you're not in front of a computer or where you can look something up, we're just going to talk about it conceptually. Okay?
Okay.
The first sentence of that FAR, that Federal Acquisition Regulation, says that a quote is not an offer and consequently cannot be turned into a contract. Now, I want you to think about that for a second. A quote is not an offer and consequently cannot be turned into a contract. In other words, if you give them a quote, they cannot turn it into a contract. That's the first sentence of this FAR.
It has to be a contract.
No, a quote is not an offer and it can't be turned into a contract. Look, understand that's different, because if you sign a quote and give it to one of your guys that you're trying to sell to and they sign it, what do you have?
A contract.
If you fucked up in your bid, you just lose because you've got a contract.
That's right.
In federal, because of this first sentence of the FAR, it says a quote is not an offer and consequently cannot be turned into a contract. That's different. Do you agree?
Yes, yes.
Okay. The second sentence says, and I'm going to paraphrase here because I'm not reading it, but it says that if the government turns your quote into a contract, don't worry about it. It's not a contract. And the reason they have that second sentence is because they're worried that not every contracting officer understands sentence number one. And someday they might take your quote and turn it into a contract, even though the first sentence says that they can't. Does that make sense?
Interesting. Okay.
So that's what the second sentence says, is if all of a sudden somebody does take it and turn it into a contract, don't worry about it. It's still not a contract. Then it's got all this legalese, the rest of the paragraph, but it says what turns it into a contract is when the supplier accepts the offer. Who's the supplier of the quote?
You are.
You are, that's right. Okay? You have to accept it. Well, what the fuck does that mean? That's really weird. I give them a quote. I have to accept the offer. Okay? So let me tell you what happens in real life. You give them a quote for $100,000 to build the 200 square foot tiny house. They have to contact you back and say, hey, we got the quote. Would you please do this job for what you said you would do?
Yes.
Okay.
Of course.
Now, whoa. When they contact you, you have 4 options. Number one was you just figured out $100,000 is a good deal for a 200 square foot tiny house. So number one, you can accept. Hey, fuck yeah, give me the contract. Yes, we accept. Okay. Number 2 is you can withdraw. I'm sorry, we're too busy. Go to the next guy. Number 3, you can negotiate. Yeah, I know I turned that in for $100,000. We need $130,000.
No way.
Hold on.
Even if the bid's 100?
Taghi, do you think I would lie to you on a recorded conversation that you can post all over the internet?
I was just mind blown because you told me the initial bid was 100.
That's right.
I submit a quote for 100. Then they come back and say, okay, you got it. And you turn around and go, no, that's not enough. Give me more.
That's right.
And they're just going to give it to you?
I'm not going to answer that question. Now,
Why not?
because I do have a paid program, and when people are in the paid program, they get the answers to everything. There's some questions I won't answer because it's not fair to the people that have gone through my course. Does that make sense?
Got it.
That's the only, and because For all I know, you could be recording this conversation. So I'm only going to say the things that I say publicly, but I will encourage you to fact check me. Okay?
Okay.
All right. Now, number 4, you can stall for more time. You can say, I'm sorry, I wasn't expecting your call. Can I call you back in 24 to 48 hours? Because, Taghi, if I call you and you say, and I say, hey, Taghi, I want to talk to you about this conversation we had this morning. Can't you say, well, shit, Sean, I wasn't expecting your call. Can I call you back in tomorrow?
Of course, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, when the government contacts me and says, hey, we want to talk to you about this $100,000 bid you turned in, we'd like you to accept the offer so that we can get a contract, I always say, I'm sorry, I wasn't expecting your call. Can I call you back in 24 to 48 hours? Boop, get them right off the phone. Now I'm making the phone call to Taghi. Hey, Taghi, this is Sean. I'm a national federal contractor. I do everything from wind tunnels, water treatment plants, to kitchen renovations. I'm calling you today because the National Park Service wants to build this little 200 square foot tiny house, and I called around and it sounds like you're the guy to talk to. What I'd like to do is send you over the plans and specifications, and when you get them, you don't even have to open and look at them. I'm already familiar with the job. Just pick up the phone and call me, and I'll walk you through it step by step. Okay? Now I send them over to you, you call me back, and I say, okay, Taghi, listen, I'm not asking you to write me a quote. I'm not asking you to deep dive into this. I just want to walk you through the job, and you just give me a price off the cuff that if I called you up 90 days from today and said, hey, man, we got the job, that we'd be close enough to negotiate something that makes sense for both of us. Okay? Now, under those conditions, this hypothetical you and I are role-playing, tell me, Taghi, how much to build the 200 square foot tiny house?
I don't know. Call it $50K.
Okay. Holy shit, I'm thinking in my head, I turned this thing in for $100. The guy that knows how to build these things is telling me $50,000. So I go, hey, listen, I'm going to go check my budget and make sure everything checks out. But if everything checks out, I'm going to call you back and issue a purchase order or a subcontract agreement. Let me get back to you in a couple of hours. I get off the phone with you. What's my next phone call?
You're calling the people that called you from the federal government.
And then I say what?
I want more money.
No, we accept.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Look.
I thought the more money thing was coming in.
No, I accept
Okay.
because look, I'm going to get the contract for $100. Taghi's going to go build it for $50, and I get to move on to the next job. And Taghi's going to take care of everything. Okay?
That's true.
Listen, once I get that federal contract, hey, Taghi, for $50,000, if I give you an extra $1,000, Taghi, will you go out there and take 3 pictures in the morning and 3 pictures in the afternoon and fill out a daily report at the end of the day?
Of course.
Great. Okay, now let's take another. Hey, Taghi, how much to build the 200 square foot tiny house? Give me another number.
$75,000.
Okay, I turn this thing in for $100. He's telling me $75. Hey, Taghi, for $75,000, do I not have to do anything? You're going to take 3 pictures in the morning, 3 pictures in the afternoon, fill out a daily report. You're going to take care of the whole job, no problems?
Sure, of course.
Okay, great. I'm going to make $25,000 for a couple hours of my time. Okay, and I get to move on to the next one. Give me another scenario.
I want $100,000.
Oh shit! I turned this thing in for $100. Taghi's telling me $100. Okay, Taghi. Listen, I'm not sure that's going to fit the budget or not, but I'm going to get back to you in a couple hours. My next phone call is to the government. Hey, suppose I need to change my bid to $130,000. What happens next? I'm negotiating. Give me another scenario.
I want $125,000.
Oh shit! I turned this thing in for $100. This guy's telling me $125,000. At that point, I'd probably just call the government and withdraw my bid. Okay. Listen, you can give me any dollar scenario, but let me ask you a question. If one of your options is to withdraw every bid you ever turned in, what is your risk for turning in a bid?
Nothing. Just a few hours of time to fill out on a bid.
And there's the light bulb moment.
Yeah.
Okay, listen, what you've just gotten is 15 minutes of a 3-day course that I developed to teach contractors how to succeed in the federal market.
That's awesome.
Okay? Sit down, watch that video, come into the Zoom tomorrow with a lot of questions.
I'm going to be ready for you.
Okay?
I'm going to be firing off. This is really exciting. Thank you for taking the time to talk to me. Actually, I don't think anybody's ever done that.
And nobody ever will because they haven't lived it. That's the problem with these people teaching on the internet. They read books or they're attorneys that teach it from the legal perspective. Nobody teaches it from the construction perspective. The idea of actually doing this shit.
Doing the work itself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They don't know what it really takes to win a federal contract. Jesus, that $5 million roofing job, I could have had one of my guys in there in seconds if it had come across my desk.
Jeez. So do you still bid on federal contracts?
Absolutely not. I haven't bid on one in 20 years. Well, probably 15 years.
Why?
I'm done.
Oh, you're retired. Okay.
Listen, you don't know what started all this. Let's go back in time. When I was 15 years old, I backtalked my mom. My dad was on a federal contract, had a 1986 AT&T brick cell phone. She called him on that phone and said, "Hey, your kid, not her kid, your kid's backtalking me." And he said, "Put that kid on a plane to Palm Springs, California." My dad was on a federal contract somewhere else. But he says, "Put that kid on a plane to Palm Springs." So she drives me down to the old Robert Mueller Airport here in Austin, puts me on an airplane. Within 2 hours, I'm in Palm Springs, California. Some 6'4" big burly guy in overalls and work boots tells me to get the fuck in the truck. I get in the truck. He drives me out to 29 Palms Marine Corps Base, sticks me in an attic insulating ductwork. And that was my introduction to, within 6 hours, my dad had changed my whole life, So I'm out there in 29 Palms for 3 months, summer school break, insulating ductwork. I move on, go to college, and then I get my first my first job as a federal contractor at San Clemente Island, which is an island off the coast of California. Some people are familiar with San Clemente, California. That's not this. San Clemente Island, it used to be a secret, but it's public information now, is about 40 miles off the coast of California, where you've heard of buds where the seals go out there and train?
Yes.
Okay, that's first phase that they're always talking about. Third phase of buds is where they go to this island, San Clemente Island, and they learn how to blow shit up.
Wow.
And we were responsible for rehabilitating the 5 generators that create power on that island. And so, all day long you'd hear the SEALs out there throwing grenades, shooting M4s, and then every once in a while, half the island is for munitions where the submarines track their, before they go out to sea, they have to zero in their launch stuff for the missiles and all Tridents and all that kind of stuff, harpoon missiles. And so the other half of the island, the Seabees go out there and build these facade buildings, and then the missiles come out of the ocean and blow that shit up. Shakes the whole island. It's pretty incredible. So anyway, after that job, I was on a job in San Francisco, then Miami. I traveled for the next 5 years all across the country, learning federal government construction from the perspective of a superintendent. Eventually, I become a project manager. I'm back home in Austin, and I'm running. My dad and I were running $20 to $40 million a year in federal contracts, with a team of 6 people, by the way.
Holy shit! That's insane.
On day 2 of the workshop in the morning, I define who those people were, what their responsibilities were, and I named them by name. Okay?
Wow.
Because look, in any business, you have people, processes, and technology. Would you agree?
Of course.
Okay? So I want to make sure that everybody understands who the people were, what their processes were, and the technology we used to do all that. Okay? Then in 2005, I'm out on the lake here in Austin, Lake Travis, and my brother and I, we were the two kids that said, man, when we're adults, wouldn't it be cool if we lived next door to each other? Well, we did that. In 2000 or 2001, we bought homes next door to each other. And we both had boats, and we lived about a mile from the lake, and we used to go down to the lake all the time. Well, I was looking for him all day long, couldn't find him. I was calling him on his cell phone, couldn't find him. And as I'm pulling out of the cove around 5 o'clock in the afternoon, I see him. And I'm like, hey, dude, we're going over to Carlos and Charlie's. We're going to have dinner. Let me buy you dinner. And he says, no, we're going to Cafe Blue. I said, well, okay, man, I love you. Bye. That was the last I ever saw of him in his as he was. At 10 o'clock at night, my boat and crew were sitting in a cove drinking beer, and we look across the lake and we see fucking 20 police boats, helicopters. There's a massive fucking thing going on. I had no idea my brother was over there dying. We're sitting there laughing, going, oh, some idiot, fucking morons. You know, we're making fun of the whole thing. Had no idea it was my brother. He was in a head-on boat collision at night.
Oh, wow.
He was star-flighted to the hospital. I get a phone call at 2 o'clock in the morning from my dad, who is on a federal contract in New York. And he says, at 2 o'clock in the morning, he says, your brother is having brain surgery. I don't know if he's going to live or die. I need you to go pick up your mom and take her to the hospital. What the fuck? I only have one question. Does she know? And he said, not yet. Oh, shit. Okay. So go pick up mom, go down to the hospital. Run, you're hit it on the head. So now all of a sudden we've got this brain injured brother. He's had a golf ball sized portion of his brain removed. And we're calling contracting officers and getting out of the contracts that we already have. You know, hey, listen, we had a personal tragedy. By that time, we had done $1 billion worth of work. We had made over somewhere between $300 and $350 million over our career. And by the way, this is all documented. You can find videos on all of this on the internet. Because we developed a brain rehab center in his home. We were investing $200,000 a month, putting him back together for 5 years.
Holy shit.
Again, not only is it documented, it's documented with the federal government, because at one point the Army was curious as to what we were doing because they have a lot of TBIs with their soldiers. Traumatic brain injuries. And we were bringing people in from Russia, from Australia. We just had a lot of money, and we threw money at the problem. My dad sat there the whole time for 5 years saying, I want my son back the way he was the day before the accident. That was the mission.
Wow.
And so we did that for 5 years. And then, of course, you remember 2009, the recession.
Yes.
So something interesting happened. The Austin American-Statesman, the local newspaper, wrote an article basically saying that the construction industry had gone to shit. And my dad reads the paper every day, and he reads this article, and he writes the author back, and he says, hey, listen, that might be true for the commercial and residential construction, but the federal market is booming. And she said, why? And he said, well, because Obama issued the American Reinvestment and Recovery Act. It's a $150 billion stimulus package to stimulate the economy, and they're doing that through federal government construction contracts. The problem is, there's only 25,000 registered federal contractors, and 25,000 contractors can't do $150 billion. You can't bid $150 billion worth of work. He stuck it all out there at one time. So what happened was 47 billion of the 150 billion got pulled out of the stimulus package and put back into the general fund. And then she said, would you write an article about that? So we did, and it got published. So what we didn't know, because we're just dumb contractors, was that when an article gets published, it can get republished. And that article got republished in a magazine called Commercial Contractors Renovation Magazine. And I remember that being a funny acronym because CCR was the name. Before sam.gov was a thing, it used to be called CCR, Central Contractors Registration. But this was Commercial Contractors Renovation.
Okay.
Anyway, that article got published in a magazine, and some guy named Jacob Kroll up in Dallas, he reads the article. And he just figures out who we are and cold calls us and says, would you be willing to give a speech in front of my group of 110 roofing and restoration contractors about the opportunity in the federal market? So, okay, sure. It's 2010. And so we go up to Dallas and we give a speech. Now, I don't know if you have somebody in your family like this, but in my family, it's my dad, where every once in a while he just does some kooky shit and you're like, what was that all about? So he's standing on stage, he's talking about our careers, and then at the end of the speech, he looks at this room of 110 contractors and he says, I'll take 20 of you into a room and teach you everything you need to know to be successful in the federal market.
Wow.
We walk off the stage and he gets bum rushed because he had just said 20 to a room of 110 and he was serious. So I'm like, I can't even believe my eyes because it looked like one of those stock ticker guys that's saying, who, like 100 guys around him going, buy, buy, buy. He takes all these checks and I'm video recording this with my iPhone 3 thinking, wow. And so we're getting in the car. He's taken $100,000 worth of checks to an event that does not exist. And we're driving home and I'm going, what the fuck was that? And he says, listen, there's a problem. And he's describing this ARRA money problem. He said, there's not enough good federal contractors and I'm just the guy to fix it. And I thought that makes perfect sense. I mean, my dad's been fixing problems for the federal government for the last 40 years. At that point, so over 50 years now. But anyway, so we go home and we put together this 3-day program from the concept of, hey, if I was starting my career over, what would I want to know today to be launched right into the market? So we go back up to Dallas and 3 weeks later, and we give this first event. Oh, by the way, I don't even think we were called the GCExperts when we went and did that event. I think GCExperts was invented on the way home. Like, what would you call this thing?
That's awesome. That's amazing.
So we go up to Dallas, we deliver this event, but at the end of the event, we record some testimonials. But more importantly, when you come to my event, do I know your company name?
Yeah.
Huh?
Do you know my company name? Yeah, you did.
If you come to my event, do I know your company name?
No.
Yes, of course I do. If you come to my workshop, I get to know your company name.
Workshop.
Yeah. Okay.
Sorry.
So once I have your company name, can I track your federal contracts?
Of course, yeah.
So I start tracking those guys. They start winning federal contracts. But we thought, from our perspective, okay, we went and did this one time. That was fun. That's the end of that. A year goes by. And we get a cold call from a guy named Anthony Del Medico. Now, keep in mind, this is still recorded, and you can look up who he is later, okay? But he, in 2010 or 2011, I think it was 2011, he invented an event called Win the Storm. He cold calls us. Oh, what happened was he created this event, and he had two buddies, two best friends. Those two friends were in that room a year prior. They didn't come to our event. They just remember these two federal guys that got bum rushed at the stage when they got off the stage. And they're telling Anthony about that. And they said, if you're going to have an event, you have to find these two guys. They don't remember who we were or anything. Go find those two guys from Texas, those federal government guys. Okay?
That's awesome.
So Anthony just cold calls us and says, hey, I'll fly you down. I'm having an event. My two buddies are telling me if I'm going to have an event, I have to have you guys on stage. Well, fuck, we go down there. There's like 5,000 guys in the room. And we're talking about the opportunity in federal contracts. And Dad goes, I'll take 20 guys into a room.
That's awesome.
So
you've been doing this quite a while.
Yeah. Well, it's fun. I mean, doesn't it sound like I'm having fun?
Yeah.
Okay.
It does.
Okay. So then we do that event. 20 people into a room. They start getting federal contracts. The next year, Anthony invites us to Phoenix. Then we get invited to Las Vegas. And every year we're doing one event.
Oh, shit.
Because we don't need the money. Fuck it. You know? It's just fun.
That's crazy.
So that goes for the next 9 years, and then the pandemic happens. Well, can't go to a public event anymore. Well,
yeah.
At some point, I started video recording the live events. And when I say video recording, like, no expense spared. I put 6 different HD cameras in the room. I bought a switching system, like a professional grade. Like, if you've ever watched Monday Night Football and they show the back room where they go to camera 1, go to camera 2, go to camera 4. I bought the equipment to do that. And then I hired a guy in the back so I was video recording live the edits, if that makes sense. If I moved this way, the camera switched the camera angle. If we were referring to a slide, it switched to record the computer. So all the editing was done live instead of having to do edits later. Does that make sense?
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
Yeah, you're doing a live shoot. By the way, I went to school for film and TV.
Okay. So, look,
That's what I went to
you
school
got to
for.
keep in mind, I'm a dumb contractor, so this was all new to me. Okay. And that's why, to me, it's impressive what I accomplished. To you, it sounds like that's fucking old school 101. But
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So we did that. So then all I had to do was, because I never turned the cameras off or the microphones. So the light editing I had to do was when my dad or I would go pee, it would record us peeing. And in fact, the first version I ever put out, one of the people that went through the video training said, hey, you need to check day 2. There's a whole audio section of one of you guys peeing.
That's awesome. That's great.
And so, anyway, I put it online during the pandemic because we couldn't bring people in the room. And what happened was, I thought it was done at the pandemic, but my son comes home for Christmas and he says, hey, you should put this on Facebook. And I went, oh no, Facebook is for pictures of me eating tacos and your mom, that's where your mom's going to find her future boyfriend. And we laughed. And then on the next week, it was New Year's, and he was home again, and he said, no, seriously, let's go to the office. I want you to make a video and put it on Facebook. So that video you saw was me just standing up there in front of the whiteboard going, okay. And there's no edits. There's no nothing. There's just fucking me talking into a camera. And some kid got on there. He said, that's how I knew you weren't full of shit, because everybody else, they cut to this, they cut to this. The lighting is perfect. The sound is awesome. And I said, fuck, man, I've just got a lot to say. Of course there's no edits,
Sean, I don't mean to cut you short. I'm doing maintenance this morning
Oh, okay.
on a couple of units. But I really enjoyed having this conversation, and I fully look forward to our conversation tomorrow. I finished work today at 3, so I'm going to sit there and watch a video. If you don't mind texting or emailing it back to me again.
Yep, I'll make sure you've got it.
And I want to have those questions ready.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, Taghi. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Bye.